Hi, in this video we are going to see how we can connect to IBM MQ through IBM MQ Connector from Mule4. So in order to do that, I'll just create a project in Anypoint Studio. I'll create a new project. So for this one I'm using a latest Anypoint Studio and also the Mule runtime. So once we create the project, how we are going to trigger this particular flow is we are going to add as a HTTP listener. So we are going to receive the request to our Mule flow via HTTP listener, and once I receive it, I'm going to post some data to IBM MQ. So once you create a new project, so normally HTTP and socket module will get added automatically. If we need an additional module, then we have to add it from the add module section. But IBM connector, it won't be there in that particular section, so you have to go and search it in Exchange, and then you have to download it from there, and then once you add it, then you will be able to use the functions which are available in the particular module. So now we are trying to create a project. So I'll just name this project as MQ demo. I'll click finish. So once the project is created, what we are going to do is we are going to download the MQ connector from the Exchange. So this is the file. We are going to keep it in config file, and I'm going to specify everything in the configuration value, like MQ host name, the server which we are connecting to for IBM MQ, and the port where that MQ application will run, which is normally the default port is 1414, and what is the queue we are going to connect and drop the message, and what is the queue manager name. So inside queue manager, IBM MQ queue manager, that they can have many queues, and what is the queue manager name we have to give, and the channel name where this is also we can get it from MQ team. So whatever the details which is here, we have to ask the MQ team, they will share this details. So the channel name and also the username and password which we need to use it to connect to this particular MQ host and port. So these are the details which we needed. So I'll be specifying this in config file so that I can fill the information, IP, port, username and password, which I can refer it in my particular application. So once we externalize this particular in config file, each environment will be able to configure the different IP or different queue name for our application. So I'll just my project got created, so I'll just open the project, the MQ configuration, the MuleSoft configuration file I'll open. So I'll minimize this one. So I'll expand this project. So the project is getting created. So if you see this one, it's initializing the Mule demo app, right? So if you see this one, the canvas has opened, and it's downloading the HTTP module and socket module now. So once we have that module downloaded, we can drag and drop, and we can use it in our flow. So now because these are the default module which will get added whenever we create any package. Okay, so the HTTP modules by default will get added. The HTTP module internally, it requires some socket module, so that is why the socket module is also getting added. So so now it's the final step, it's getting downloaded. See, if you see here, it's downloaded now. So I'll just go and add the HTTP listener, because I'm going to invoke this particular Mule application through HTTP listener only. So basically I'm going to push some data from my postman which is going to trigger this application, and from there I'm going to send it to IBM MQ. So the listener is added, and I'll just find now the MQ connector from the Exchange. So so I think it's downloading this, whatever the configuration is required for this listener. Once that is done, I'll just add the module. So now I'm going to add a module. So if you click add modules, whatever the module that it will be there, like file module will be there, database module will be there, or Salesforce module will be there, JMS, FTP, SFTP, all those stuff will be there. But again, whatever we are looking for, the IBM MQ connector, by default it won't be there. So it's loading the modules, it's loading the available modules. So if you see this one, the bottom down, right, so it's loading the module. So once it's loaded, I can show you, what are the modules by default it is available. And yeah, IBM connector, it won't be there, and we can quickly go and fetch it from this particular search in exchange also. So I'm just clicking search in exchange, and when you try to download it from exchange, you need to use your Anypoint platform account. So I'll just add quickly my account, and if you have already added, so it will be there for last 7 days, or we can come and reconfigure it again as well. So I'll just configure it. I'm going to configure with my Anypoint platform username and password only. So I'm going to fill my username and password which is required for Anypoint platform. Okay, so if you see the right side, it's loaded. So what are the modules for available modules loaded, and yeah, it's not having the MQ module, so we will try to download it. So whatever the Anypoint platform account I'm using, I'm using some trial account only, and if you don't have account, you can sign up and then you can use that as well. So I'm just logging into my Anypoint account which I have recently created, which is a trial account as well, which is valid for 30 days. So now I'm logging into that particular environment. So once we connected to that Anypoint platform environment, we will be able to download any module. Okay, so now it's connected. So I'll search MQ here. Okay, so I'm just giving MQ. Even I don't need to enter also. So it will list down whatever the MQ related connectors are there. So I'm going to use IBM MQ connector. I'll just add it, and I'll just, once it's added, I'll click finish. Okay, so once you add it, right, so see here, it's downloading the IBM connector. So once it's downloaded, right, it will appear here, so that we can start using it as well. So it's downloading from Anypoint exchange to your local machine, so where you have this Anypoint studio. So once it's downloaded, right, so what we'll be doing is we have IBM MQ connector, and in that connector we have something called publish, and which we will use it to publish the message to IBM MQ. And whatever the connection detail which we need to configure, so mainly host, port, queue manager, channel. So these are the details. So for example, if you see the screenshot, connection mode is client, and then they are filling the host name, IP, and queue manager, and channel name. So channel name, normally it will be end with this SFR connection, and which you can get it from your IBM MQ team. Okay, so these are the default thing which we need to set it up while connecting to IBM MQ. So if you see here, I have downloaded, so that is why it's getting added here, and I'm going to publish some content to, I'm going to use this publish operation to send the data or publish some data to IBM MQ. Okay, so I just added it. So every connector, right, so we need to specify the connection parameter, right, like if you are connecting to Oracle, you have to give Oracle database. Similarly, this IBM MQ also, we need to specify the connector configuration to say what is a IP, a port number, or queue manager name, or queue name, or channel name, username and password. So these are the things which you need to give it, so that it will be able to connect to that particular IBM MQ server. So I'll just add the connector configuration. So then this one, right, so whatever the connection configuration I'm going to give, I'm going to refer it from my configuration file. I just click this button. Yeah, so it's opened here, and the connection mode, you just change it to client. And before that, right, so there's a IBM MQ client. So we need a jar to connect to IBM MQ environment. So IBM is it's a different product, right? So we need the jar file to connect to IBM MQ. So this jar file, once loaded, Anypoint runtime which internally use this IBM MQ client jars to connect to IBM MQ environment. So I'll just configure that. So you have few ways to configure. If you have a local file, you can configure it, but for now I'll just add it from the Maven repository. So it's already there. I'll just click finish, so that that particular jars will get downloaded to your package as well. Okay, so now we are downloading the MQ client jar, which will help us to connect to MQ environment. Okay, so once you configure, right, so once you browse that jar file, this one will get tick mark. Okay, so earlier there was a warning symbol, so now the MQ client jar got added, so that's why it's successfully added. So that's why you are able to see this tick mark. And yeah, so I'm going to give all these details, right, like username, password, everything in a config file. So I'll just select client because that's the thing I wanted to use it for specifying the server name, all those stuff. So I'll just give like this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give all this information in the config file. Okay, so for this one, MQ host, right, for I'll just configure the host name. I'm going to take it from the config file. So I'll just take this key name. For that key name, if we need to refer anything from the config file, we need to give it like this. And port, I'm going to use 1412. So that is the default is 1414, but whatever the environment I'm going to connect, it's using a 14N2. So this also you can configure. You can specify it in the config file. And I'll just say what is the queue manager name. I'm going to say queue manager name also in the config file, and I'll have this also in the configuration file. So I'll refer this one. So you have to give dollar and then curly braces and then the key name. And I'm going to refer here channel name. I'm giving channel name. Okay, this port also anyway I'm giving it in a config file, so I'll load it from the config file only, because each environment this port might get changed, so it's better to externalize that with the config value, so that it will be easy to manage it as well for every different environment. Okay, so a host name configured, port is configured, queue manager and channel name, and these are the mandatory values, and username and password, right? So username and password normally we have to take it from the config file only, because each environment it will change, and also it might get expired, you might need to change it, or if it is configured here, it will be very visible for the people who is managing the operation. So it's better to configure it in the config file. Okay, so I'll just specify in the config file. I'm just referring the key directly from here. Okay, so these are the details which are required mainly for to connect to any IBM MQ environment. Some of the IBM MQ environment, this username and password will be optional, so you just check it with your team. So whatever, if it is not optional, then you have to configure it as well. So I gave everything. So yeah, so these are the details required, and yeah, I'll just give okay. Now I will specify the key, but I had to configure that actual value in the config file. I'll just give okay, and I'll go ahead and configure that in my config file now. So I just give okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this value. I'm going to fill some IP here and port here, and I'm going to use some 1412 and some value for queue manager. Everything I'm going to specify it in my config file. So I'm going to fill some values now in my config. So in order to do that, I'll just right click, and I'm going to create a config file now. So new and mule, not mule config, yeah, so mule configuration file. I'll just say any file name. Okay, so I'll just say config.properties. I'll open the file. Okay, so better don't do like this, say, because I'm going to give as a key value pair only. I'll just delete this one. Okay, so what you do is, for any creating a config file, you can create as a YAML file or data property file. So there is another option where you can specify the property file. So what you do is right click. So it's deleting the whatever I wrongly created. So I'll create it now. Yeah, it's deleted now. So I'll just right click and you just go to new, and you will have something called file, right? So I'm just going to use the file one, and I'll just say config.properties, and then I'll just click finish, and then I'll copy my value. So now I'm going to fill these values. Okay, I'll not show this value because this is some credential informations are there, so I'll not show it in this video, but I'm going to fill this value. So once I filled it, right, so what I'm going to do is I have to specify the where my config file is located to my Mule project, right? So that's the one I'm going to specify it now. So I'll just opening whatever the MQ demo XML file, right? So I'm just opening that. There the global element thing, I'm going to set where the my config file is located. So I'll just go to the global element and I'll just going to create configuration property. Under the global configuration, you have a configuration property. I'll select that. It will ask the file name, so I'll choose my file name. Okay, so then your Mule flow will know. So this is the file name I created, right? Config.property. So then Mule flow will know where your config is located. Okay, so now we have added. So now I'm just adding this value. So I'm not going to show that in this particular video. So we have configured the connection name and everything in our config file now. So what I'll do is I'll just go here and only one pending thing which I didn't do earlier. So I didn't set the queue name. So earlier I just set only the host name, IP, host name, password, everything. So the destination I didn't specify. So I'll just copy it from here, which is destination name, nothing but it's your queue name only. And I'll just take that values also from the config file. So now it's everything is going to come from the config file. Okay, so before that, right, I'll just what I'll do is just do something, some wrong queue name I'll give just to show, you know, first initially it's failing, then, you know, we are able to say make some successful. Okay, so now I'm not taking a queue name from the config file, so I'll just say, you know, my test queue. Okay, so whatever the environment I'm connecting to, this test queue is not at all there. Okay, so when I try to post this one, it should fail. Okay, so that is the objective of this one. For the initial test, then actually I'll change it with the correct queue, so that, you know, we'll see, you know, it is successfully going. This payload, instead of taking it from source, I'm just hard coding for this exercise, but again for your demo or your actual implementation, you will receive the data from upstream, where, you know, we will receive a payload which you can map it to this particular body. Okay, so when before this step you have the payload ready, so that, you know, when you are step executing, your payload will be there, you will be able to push the data. So what I'll do, I'll just this payload I'll just change it. So it could be, you know, you are posting to this IBM MQ only, right? It could be a JSON, or it could be your IBM, it could be XML or TXT or CSV file which your MQ team wants, right? So for this exercise, you know, I'll just send some JSON value to the queue. Okay, so this is my JSON sample. Okay, so I'll just say, you know, sending some test message from Mule. Okay, so this is the test message, and I'm just going to save this one. Okay, so now we saved. So this is the payload. I'm going to post it to this test queue, and also I've configured all the server name, port, queue manager, and queue which okay, so queue which I'm posting here, it is here, and channel name, everything we have configured. And I didn't configure the HTTP listener details. I'll just quickly configure that as well. So this is the one, you know, I'm just going to use and going to trigger my message. Okay, so I'll just say some path send to MQ, and I had to configure the HTTP connection. I'll just, you know, give some default port, and that's it. Yeah, so I've configured everything now. I'll save it and I'll start the project now. So I'm starting the project now. So once it started, I'm going to open my Postman, and I'm going to call this particular flow. So I'll just, you know, use localhost. I'll keep everything ready, so that, you know, by the time it gets deployed, we will have everything ready. Send to MQ. So I'm just using this flow just to trigger only. So get or post doesn't matter, because by default it allows. Because I didn't restrict anything in allowed methods in my Mule application now. So this is the one I'm going to trigger. So once it's successfully deployed, right, I'll just trigger it. So I just opened Postman newly. So there is nothing I configured earlier. So Postman is application which is a REST application. Using that, you know, you can post any kind of data to your web services, REST based web service or HTTP based web services. So I'm just posting the data via get method. So once my application is running and successfully deployed, right, I think it should be successfully deployed, because we are not seeing any error, and we have configured all the things. We have configured the configuration related parameters in the config property, in the global elements. We have referred everything, and we are going to publish it. Correct. So the application is coming up. So meanwhile, if you see this consume, so this is for you know, when there is a message you wanted to consume it from MQ, you can use it. But what we are doing now is we are just pushing the data to our IBM MQ. So it's a in your organization, if they have using a AS400, then they might some of the requirement, right? If they wanted to handle everything asynchronous, what they can do is we can put the message to IBM MQ, which they can subscribe it. So or if you are in organization, IBM MQ is used highly, as a messaging platform, then we can publish the data to this messaging queue. Then the subscribing system, using the client jars, they will be able to connect and subscribe the messages as well. So this is the queue based mechanism. It's mainly used to hold the message and receive it and process it in the subscribing side. So we can push it to the queue, the subscribing system can receive it from the particular queue. So now it is deployed. So I'm just going to run this particular flow from a postman. So this is the endpoint I have given, send to MQ. So now what I'm expecting is some error I'm expecting, because the queue manager or the IBM MQ queue manager which I'm connecting, right, which doesn't have the test queue. So we are going to push the data to this queue. So let's see, our Mule application has received the data. Okay, so now what is happening is we are pushing the data from IBM postman. So it's receiving here and it's saying the error. If you see this error, error occurred while sending a message to the queue and failed to open MQ test queue, because test queue is not there. Okay, so that is why it's failing. So now what I'm going to do is I'll go and change it to the correct queue name where I'm going to push the data. So here I've already configured my queue name in the config file. So I'm going to use this valid queue name which I already configured in my queue name. I'm going to refer that dollar. Yeah, so now instead of test queue, we are using the queue name which is available in the config, and I'll save it, and I just click this button. So I'll just click, I'll close the exchange. I'll click save button and I'll start the application. Okay, okay, so I changed something, so I'm just redeploying it again in the same Mule runtime which is available in our studio. So what is happening now is it's deploying with our changes, right? So what I did, the wrong queue I changed to correct queue. So now we shouldn't be seeing that error, right? So that is what we are going to see. Once we see the deployed status, I'm going to run it again from my postman. So it's it's bringing up your Mule instance which is coming in your Anypoint studio, and once it's up, we will be able to run it as well. So this is the concept is simple only, because for all kind of MQ or JMS, you'll have publish or subscribe or publish consume, and it could be a JMS adapter or JMS connector or IBM MQ connector or Apache Kafka, any kind of messaging solution, right? The concept will be same. So they will have a IP port and queue manager or queue name, and some messaging solution they will have a queue and topic, and some will have only queue, and some exchange they will refer the topic as exchange. Those kind of things will be there, but high level the concepts are same. We will be able to push the message and we will be able to receive the message. And this particular exercise we are just pushing the message, so it's deployed. So earlier we gave the wrong queue which is called test queue, and now I'm going to earlier when there's a failure we got the error status, right? Now I'm sending the data again, so now we will get the 200 success status because we are posting the data to the correct queue. Okay, so we are going to see that now. So I'm posting the data. So now what is happening is our Mule application is going to receive the request, and it's going to process our request, and whatever the payload which you are sending to that particular queue, right? So it's going to send the data to the particular queue. So now what is happening is, if you see our Mule application yet to receive the request, and I'm sending the request from my postman. My machine is a little slow, so that is why it's taking time. So for your case, right, when you send the request, you will be able to see immediately the response. So if you see here 200, so which means your Mule application has successfully received it, and it's all the steps executed successfully. That is why you are saying you are seeing this 200 successful status. So if you're seeing this one, so there is no error or anything, so which means your IBM MQ has received the data successfully. So now if we see the screenshot, right, I have got the screenshot from my MQ team, so which is AS from the team who receives the MQ data. If you see this one, they have received this data at their time 4:27, right? So which is equivalent to whatever my current time, it's 12:27, and their machine is running in a different time zone, so that is why it's showing 4:27. Other than that, right, so I have also checked this queue name which I have hidden. that's a place, I was sending the data, so they are receiving data successfully. So if you see this one, the size of the data received, and username I just hidden because that's a username I used to connect to that particular machine. And also I have hidden the queue manager name and queue name which we have configured in our config file. So basically this proves that whatever the message we are sending, which is reaching the IBM MQ server as well. So this is the queue manager screen from the AS400, which they are able to see and confirm they have received this particular message which we have sent it from MuleSoft. And hi, this is my YouTube channel, TechLightning, and if you wanted to refer any integration related video, you can refer this channel. And I mostly post a lot of videos related to integration here, so mainly MuleSoft, FPG and SoftReg related videos. And also sometimes I post some generic integration related video or API related videos as well, which you can watch it from this channel, TechLightning. And if you have not subscribed, please do subscribe, and also click the bell icon for the notification. And also if you look at this playlist, I have specifically created a lot of playlists for different purpose. And if you see, if somebody is new to MuleSoft, they can search or go through this playlist. And also if they are looking for only Anypoint platform related videos, then you can go through via this particular playlist. And if you are attending MuleSoft interview, I have a specific playlist. And if you are attending web methods interview, I have a specific playlist. And if you are new to FPG and you want to learn something about FPG, you can go through this playlist. And if you are new to integration, you can go through this playlist. So I have a lot of videos related to integration. You can refer it from this TechLightning channel. And please subscribe it, so that whenever I post any videos, you will also get to know about whatever I am posting. You will get to know as well. And thank you for subscribing, and thank you for watching all my videos in my different channel. And I also post a lot of videos in this Facebook page, so you can click my Facebook page, and you can see whenever I upload any video, I communicate through this forum. And also my LinkedIn profile details are here, and whenever I share anything, I will also share it via LinkedIn as well. And please keep in touch, and also subscribe to this channel, which is if you are into integration or you are going to work in integration, and if you are part of integration community earlier or part of integration community now, please do subscribe. I am going to post a lot of videos in the upcoming days as well, with respect to integration, or with respect to IoT, or with respect to BPM or RPA, all those stuff. So please continue to watch all my videos. Thank you. Bye bye.